Good morning, friends. Well, we are going to talk about blood. Well, blood is a circulating tissue composed of fluid, plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. 7 to 8% of the total body weight is occupied with blood. pH of blood is 7.4, whereas the temperature is 36 degrees Celsius. What are the important functions of blood? Well, we all know that it helps in the transportation. It transports dissolved gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide. It transports waste products of metabolism, example water, urea, ammonia. Of course, hormones and enzymes. Then nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and glycerol. Well, plasma proteins associated with the defense, such as blood clotting factors and antibodies, are also transported by blood. Well, the most important is the transportation of the blood cells. For example, the RBCs will deliver oxygen to the cells, WBCs will go to the site of the infection, to the where the foreign body is located, they will scavenge that, and thrombocytes, which help in the clotting. So, further to this, we have other functions of blood like they maintain the body temperature, it controls the pH, it removes toxins from the body with the help of your kidneys. Well, the kidneys, they act as organs for filtration. Toxins also leave the body in the form of sweat. Well, the regulation of body fluid electrolytes is also one of the important functions of blood. Excess of salt is removed from the body in the urine, which may contain approximately 10 grams of salt per day. An adult male contains 5 to 6 liters of blood, whereas an adult female contains approximately 4 to 5 liters. Well, the composition of blood is 55% of blood is plasma, 45% is the solid component, that is, it includes all the blood cells. Of these blood cells, 99.9% are erythrocytes, and you have 0.1% of leukocytes and thrombocytes. Well, again, this is a slide which is a pictorial depiction of the various components of the blood. Then, what is the difference between plasma and serum? Well, you can see when the blood is left to stand for some time in a test tube, you will see that the liquid portion gets separated from the solid portion. The solid, because of the gravity, it settles down, and you can see the composition is approximately 45%. Well, this 45% is all but nothing but cells. All the three types of cells are found here in this component which settles down, and we have the RBCs, we have the WBCs, and the platelets. Whereas the liquid which separates on top is yellow colored, straw colored fluid, and this fluid is called as plasma, and this accounts for approximately 55%. Well, as the blood is left in the test tube for some time, all the clotting factors, they get activated, and finally a clot is formed. Well, this clot floats in the liquid, and the liquid which remains, this is also a straw colored liquid and is called as serum. Well, now we are going to talk about the matters of the heart. We need to know what is the normal size of the heart. We need to know what does it weigh, how many times it beats. So, it is the size of a human fist. As the heart body develops, the heart also grows at the same rate as the fist. It weighs about 11 ounces, that is 310 grams. From the moment it begins beating until the moment it stops, the human heart works tirelessly. In an average lifetime, the heart beats more than 2.5 billion times. Well, this is without ever taking a pause or rest. It's like a pumping machine, and it provides the power needed for life. Well, this is again a schematic description of the different chambers of the heart. It's a beautiful house. You can see that it has got two stories. The top story, that is the first floor, and the ground floor, and we do have an attic and the main entrance. Well, the four windows where you see on the first floor, we have the two windows. this and the one this. Then we have two on the ground floor. Well, these represent your chambers, 4 chambers of the heart. And now this will further clarify you. On the top we have the right atrium followed by the right ventricle. The two are separated by a tricuspid valve. Then we have the left atrium and the left ventricle, which are separated by the mitral valve. Well, different vessels, they either lead to a chamber or they come out of a chamber. Well, that we'll talk about later in the next slide. Well, again, now this is exactly the cross section of your heart. You can see the veins, you can see the major arteries, you can see the aorta, and of course you can see the arch of the aorta too. So let's start. We have a tricuspid valve which separates. I'll just go back again. We have the tricuspid valve which separates the right atrium from the right ventricle. We have a mitral or the bicuspid valve which separates the left atrium from the left ventricle. Now we have a pulmonary valve which is guarding the opening of the pulmonary artery, which originates or which starts from your right ventricle. It carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs, where this blood gets oxygenated or purified. Oxygen enriched blood returns to your heart, into your left atrium via the two pulmonary veins which open into your left atrium, and this oxygenated blood reaches your left ventricle from left atrium during a process called as the opening of the valves, and from the left ventricle oxygenated blood is forced into the circulation via the major aorta or the major vessel of the body, which is called as the aorta. Now again, there is a valve which guards the opening of this major vessel, and this is called as the aortic valve. Well, all these valves, the pulmonary valve, the aortic valve, they are also called as the semi-lunar valves. They are half-moon shaped valves. Then the two main vessels which bring the blood or the deoxygenated blood into your heart, into your right side of the heart, that is your right atrium, these vessels are known as vena cavas. From the superior portion of the body, the blood drains via superior vena cava, whereas through the inferior vena cava, blood drains from all the extremities and into your right atrium. So this constitutes the systemic circulation as well as your pulmonary circulation. Further to this, we have a coronary circulation. Well, coronary circulation is responsible for circulation of blood into your coronaries, and this starts from the coronary trunk, which later divides into two major branches, which we'll talk as the session goes on. Now, before going to the coronary circulation, we should study the structure of the heart. Well, the structure of the heart, as you can see in this figure, well, we have the innermost lining of the heart, which is called as the endocardium. Then you have the middle lining of the heart, which constitutes the major chunk of the heart and is called as myocardium. Then further to it, we have a layer called as epicardium, which surrounds or which envelops the heart muscles. In between the epicardium and the pericardial space is the outermost layer, which acts like a sac-like structure and envelopes the heart all around, is called as the pericardium. This pericardium is made up of two layers. We have the fibrous pericardium and the serous pericardium. The pericardial space is filled with liquid called as pericardial fluid, which acts like a shock absorber. It prevents the friction generated during the contraction of the heart, and further to it, it provides the necessary nutrients for the epicardial layer. Or you can say there is diffusion, there is osmosis. So Major function of this pericardial fluid is act like a shock absorber, and at times due to inflammation it gets infected, and from a straw colored fluid it becomes thick, deep red, deep yellow colored. If you have blood stained inside, then it is hemorrhagic. If it is due to infection, then it can be deep yellow and you might have even pus. So the inflammation of the space is called as pericarditis. So this is just another term which we need to know what happens when there is an infection of the pericardial fluid. Now let's study the normal coronary artery, the normal anatomy of it. Well, as all the vessels we are aware, they are made up of 3 layers, so are the coronaries. They have the outermost layer, which is called the tunica externa or the adventitia. Then we have the tunica media, which is the middle layer, and further to it we have the innermost layer called as tunica intima. Well, the coronary arteries and the branches course through the epicardium and penetrate the myocardium and the endocardium, supplying them with oxygenated blood. Now it is from the coronary or the arch of the aorta that major coronary trunk comes out, and which divides into the right coronary artery and your left coronary artery. This right coronary artery further divides into 2 branches called as the marginal branch, and the one which supplies the posterior half of the heart is called as the posterior interventricular branch. Now the right coronary artery, again I'll repeat, divides into 2 branches, the marginal branch and the posterior interventricular branch. The left coronary artery, it supplies a major chunk of the heart, that it supplies the left ventricle, it supplies the left atrias, and it has got 2 branches. First is the left anterior descending artery, that is called as the LAD, and you have the second one called as the left circumflex artery, which surrounds the heart. So it is called as the circumflex. Well, for better learning and for better remembering, well, the left anterior descending, it follows the course like a trunk of an elephant. It goes in front and then descends downwards. It is just for understanding that it resembles the trunk of an elephant. It goes in front and then downwards. So you can see in this figure, I'll show you again. So this is the left anterior descending artery, which is a branch of your left main coronary artery. Now this is again the same figure. Well, we can a different one, but definitely showing again the branches of the coronaries. Now these are the arteries which generally get thrombosed or occluded, and they can lead to ischemia, which is definitely an imbalance between the supply and demand of oxygen to heart. And if, well, this ischemia can develop in not only in heart, but it can develop in any major organ or any end organ. So that term will be same. It will be called as ischemia. If there is a complete cessation or complete blockage, or when there is no supply at all, then that term is called as infarct. Or if there is complete blockage of oxygen supply to any part or organ of a body, it is called as infarct or necrosis. So these 2 terms are different. Well, ischemia means there is shortage between the demand and supply of oxygen.